Hey, so hello everybody. Welcome to Mock Draft Live. I am here with Dean Kindig and Bill Carroll, and we are going to be demonstrating the NFL Draft Fanatics free mock draft simulator. And before we really get too deep into this, Bill, you want to give a chance to introduce yourself to everybody?
Sure. I am a person that, for whatever reason, fell very deeply in love with the NFL draft while still really a child, and started writing about the draft in once again sort of serendipitously in time for the 1983 draft class. So it was my first draft class that I covered for a small weekly newspaper in my hometown, the Answer newspaper in Norfolk/Virginia Beach, Virginia, and continued writing for small newspapers in my hometown and near my hometown for the next few years. Then I was later a graduate assistant at the University of Illinois. Got a chance to work with people like Coach Tepper, Lou Tepper, one of the great linebacking minds and coaches, I think, in the history of the game. John Makovic, who had extensive NFL contacts and experience, was the head coach at the time. And though he wasn't the most warm and fuzzy individual, he really knew football. And it was a great opportunity for me to learn from guys who really understood the game at the highest levels. And then there came sort of a dry period because the internet didn't exist yet, and I didn't have a football job. So I just bothered all my friends. So that's what I did for a while. I would make my own little scouting reports and force my friends to read them and that kind of thing. And then luckily for my friends, the internet, existed, but it wasn't doing anything football wise. And by the early 1990s, there were little football communities, and it was hard because the internet was still very slow, right? This is before high speed was everywhere. So it was a struggle. And then finally, when high speed comes around and there's a little boom of mock draft sites. Early, the first one, people like Scott Wright and some of the others on the first wave of that. And I got involved in talking about the NFL draft on various websites. I eventually became a member of the professional staff of a site called Consensus Draft Services, originally founded by my good friend Steve Martin, not that Steve Martin. I wish. But the other Steve Martin, who was a friend of mine who had coached overseas in Central Europe and Eastern Europe, of all places, had introduced them to American-style football theoretically he's being paid, but once you figured out what he paid to get over there, it really was a money losing proposition for my friend Steve. But he eventually come back to the United States, started getting involved in the first wave of NFL draft websites, and I started writing for them from the time I was introduced to the site in the late 1990s until the site ceased to exist. And by that time, I was running it. Hopefully, that's coincidental. That stopped. We had to shut it down while I was running it, but. And then from there, I started writing for other people. I've written for NFL Player Insiders, which is the NFLPA's, I guess, e-zine, whatever you want to use to describe it. I've written for Fan IQ, which got bought out by Facebook, and then, of course, they killed it because Facebook kills everything it touches. And then I found my way to Team NBS Sports. I've also done special content creation and sharing with people like Football Reporters Online, Around the Block Sports. I'm going to forget somebody, but I'm trying to remember, but I can. And Black Sports Online, and probably some others I've forgotten.
Awesome. And do you want to give it? You still doing Draftapalooza?
Oh, you'll know that I've died when there's no longer a Draftapalooza. So this will be the 9th fabulous year of the Mock Draftapalooza. I started it as sort of like a semi-joke. I wanted to see if I could get 16 people to pick one NFC team, one AFC team, and slog their way through 7 rounds of a broadcast live draft show. And then I would write an article about it, sort of about how it went down and things like that. And then eventually I got the idea to even have an outside group of a blue ribbon panel, or at least, some ribbon color panel that would later judge it. And there's a man on the show right now who I might be reaching out to about perhaps judging this year. But hint. But that blue ribbon panel judges it. We have a first, a second, and a third place, and they get not at all fabulous prizes. Usually it depends on stuff that I have won other places that I can repurpose, or those little vouchers that you could use to like get a big case of wine for like $4 in shipping. That kind of stuff. Oh yeah. Get ready for that. Some lucky drafter is going to get, or maybe like an Uber Eats gift card if you're really lucky. But yeah, but I'm proud of it. It's keep going and it grows. Like more and more people are interested every year, and I guess maybe I'll get even a bigger response now. But yeah, I feel like the sport of mock drafting, it has become its own thing, right? I mean, it really has its own life. And there are people I know who are only semi-football fans, but are super into mock drafting, right? Which is such a flip reverse from where it was, where I knew a lot of people were super football fans, but thought like mock drafting was just dumb, right? What are you doing? You're doing, like, what is wrong with you? And now 14-year-olds, start working on their mock draft halfway through the football season. So it's just a different world.
Yeah. Well, we'll hold a couple of those thoughts. Dean, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, let's see. I was a 44-year special education teacher here right down the street from the training camp for the Bills. And I joined Draft Tech probably 15 years ago. To be the editor of that site. I thought that they had pretty much at the time everything that people wanted in a draft site. They lost their simulator at one point, and I think they would love to get one back. That's when I became interested in what Jim was doing here using the NFL Draft Fanatics site. And simultaneously with this, Robin Mundy hooked me into doing some BuffaloFanbase.com articles about players or about positions. And I got interested in doing Google spreadsheets about 5 years ago, and that has consumed me. But it got me through COVID, so I was glad with that. And that's pretty much why I like doing the draft at this point is to compare players and to figure out what team fits and who's going to fall and who's not. What fans are really excited about that they're not going to see on their team, but also some players that they don't know about that very well could be.
Fantastic. So let's talk a little bit. So first of all, the Draft Tech Simulator came out. So I am definitely old enough that I have done mock drafts on the Draft Tech Simulator, and I don't know I think that simulator may have been gone 10 years ago.
Yep.
Like it really hasn't been around. But
yep.
Out of all the simulators around, I liked Draft Tech's the most out of what we have modern day. And one of the things that we can do in NFL Draft Fanatics, I actually, let's say, borrowed from Draft Tech, from what their simulator could do. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. So fundamentally, NFLDraftFanatics.com is 32 teams with 32 player boards. Right? So I'm an engineer by day. So if I go to a mock draft site and it always has a player there at pick 27 for Buffalo or pick 59 for Buffalo, if the same player's always there, the engineer in me doesn't like that. It's not random enough. So I wanted to design something that was more random. So NFLDraftFanatics.com, we have 32 teams, 32 player boards. So let me give you an idea as to how that works. And I'm going to do one basic demonstration, and I will turn it over to Dean and Bill. I am looking to get here. I went to team needs. I scrolled down. I'm looking for Pittsburgh. I went to the player list right here. So every team has a player list. Okay. And specifically, because I know that Buffalo needs a linebacker, and they're eyeing Jack Campbell. and Pittsburgh needs a linebacker too. Right? And it might be the same linebacker. So,
I can tell you that it is. I can tell
yeah.
you that.
So what I just want everybody to notice right now that Jack Campbell is 26th on the Pittsburgh board. So I am going to come into the mock draft simulator, and I'm going to pick Pittsburgh. I'm looking for them.
Right column, number 17.
Yep. Thank you. Okay. And I'm going to do a 2-round draft, and I'm going to flip a couple of buttons on. Okay. So the simulator is relatively simple. It's going to pick by default the highest player on a team's player board.
Right.
Best player available.
Sure.
These settings can override it. And I will talk about those settings when Dean and Bill mock draft. I will talk about these settings. These are the overrides for the above. So I'm just saying no randomness in rounds 1 and 2. Each team select the best player on their card. Okay. Now, this lends itself to some crazy behavior. Like yesterday, somebody put a punter at the top of Buffalo's player card.
It wasn't me.
So, anyway, so special shout out to Pete and Anna of Bill's Mafia, who between he and I, we were able to do enough mock drafts to bump the punter down Buffalo's player board by about 85 spots. But okay, so this player board is specific to Pittsburgh. So the only team that's going to see the players in this order is Pittsburgh.
Got it.
Okay. And Campbell was it 27? 26. He's right here.
Yep.
Okay. So Pittsburgh has 3 picks in the first 2 rounds, and they need corner, offensive line, linebacker, and probably wide receiver. I would say those are probably 4 of the top 5 needs. So you can see Porter is sitting here at the top. So I will draft Porter. Okay. So then if you look here at every single pick, these were the players that the fans have made the top players. So all those are there because the fans of those teams have done simulations. That's how those players got there. Okay. So if you're Pittsburgh and you've already drafted Porter, so you're probably not going to draft Banks, the question would be, would Pittsburgh grab Campbell here? And he's 26. So I am going to pick Campbell here. And then we're going to look at Pittsburgh's player board in a minute. Just observe, Campbell is 26 right now. That's the key. He's 26. So I'm going to pick Campbell and then offensive lineman. And that looks like a reasonable draft for Pittsburgh for 2 rounds. Okay. So let's quickly go in and look at the team needs for Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And we are going to look at where Campbell is.
I think that's the Bucks.
Thank you.
Yep. It is.
There we go.
Talking and clicking my mouse can be hazardous to my health. Look at that. Campbell is now 11. He moved
He was 6th, now he's 11th.
So he went from 26 to 11 just by me drafting. And that's going to happen when Dean is drafting and when Bill is drafting. We're going to keep our eye on Pittsburgh and see if the players that I pick for Pittsburgh go in their simulation. So fundamentally, that's how the simulator works. So the player board here is updated. So Dean, I will turn this over to you. And
all right. I'm doing that on my screen, correct?
Correct.
All right. I'm gonna okay, are you seeing this or no?
Not yet. You're going to have to hit the share screen.
Gotcha.
Or the present, excuse me.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going down here to Bills.
Okay.
And I'm keeping the draft card depth at the top and keeping the draft randomness at the bottom.
Okay. So let me tell you what those two buttons do. So draft randomness is the number of teams not selecting the top player. So in this case, it's set to 2. That means, well, okay, and then you bumped it up to 4. So if Dean had set that to 4 teams each round are not selecting the top player. That's what that means.
Okay.
And then the 8, the draft card depth, how far down the draft card will it look when it doesn't pick the top player? So you could leave it at 2, meaning it's going to grab basically the second player on the draft board. Or if you want a more random experience, you could bump that up to 8. Now, some advice for anybody listening. If you leave that at 8, you will probably not like your first round. So that's what that first round BPA is. At this point of the draft cycle, I think we know what we like in round 1. I would turn on first round BPA. So that means that in this case, the randomness will begin in round 2. It will not be in round 1.
Would you like me to do 2 rounds or 7? What do you like?
We can definitely go way more than 2. You can go between 4 and 7.
All right, we have I think 5 is the right thing because our number 6 is like at 205, and that's not going to excite anybody. All right, I'm ready.
Okay. So as the simulator goes, we will pay attention to who Pittsburgh picked. So if Dean scrolls up, did Pittsburgh select the top player on their card?
Joey Porter.
So that was how Porter got there.
Okay. Osiris Torrance was picked before ours. He has commanded quite a few mock drafts that are out there. I think Maddie Glab today on her show said that Osiris Torrance was one of the most popular picks. The running back that's available right now is Devin A-Chain, but he's like the 47th best player available. All of them, the best player available here is Darnell Wright, and he would make a really good offensive tackle. He could sub for Spencer Brown right away, right tackle, and he has an upside at left tackle and could easily be a guard as well. I'm picking him. Okay. I know that the Bills had also looked at Maryland and had looked at TCU. BJ Ojulari would make the 4th edge picked in 3 years for the Brandon Bean. So I'm not really sure that they're going to go that way. Steve Avila is in a phone booth is great, but we're probably going to want somebody a little bit more movable to the second level. We do. I already took an offensive tackle, so I think I'm gonna stick with Ojulari because Von Miller doesn't come back probably until mid-season.
Right. Okay, the players here. Quan Martin has been mocked to the Bills quite a bit. Tank Dell has been mocked to the Bills quite a bit. I'm gonna stay toward the top of the draft for this one. I'm gonna take Quan Martin here. Now, if you know me, you know that I have a fondness for a certain wide receiver.
I think that he is going to be great at the next level. Michael Wilson. My choice here between him and Dorian Williams, though. If you haven't taken a linebacker yet, and if you've noticed that we traded that Tremaine Edmonds is no longer a Bill, you better have a plan in mind. And if he's not already on the team, it might be Dorian Williams by this point. Now look at that. I got Michael Wilson anyway.
Yep. So in this situation, because we were looking at a Buffalo specific player card, that doesn't mean that Michael Wilson, just because he was second on the Bills card, he's there because Bills fans have picked him enough. That's how he got there.
Right.
That doesn't mean that he is that ranking on anybody else's card.
No, that's true. That's true. The only thing that I didn't like here is that I only have one hog molly, and that is Darnell Wright. We brought in two via the veterans being acquired at guard, and now we have an offensive tackle. Still don't have a center. I'd still have to get a center in this case.
Yep. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the grading. So the grading here is dynamic. Any player that's an A+, so those would be the first two that Dean picked. Those are the top players on the card. That's how he got A+. The A's, he picked a player that was 2 through 8. So the grading is dynamic. You could pick a player and he becomes a B or a C. And then the next time you pick him, he's an A because he was higher on the draft card. So the entire grading is based on where they were on the draft card, basically meaning the grading is groupthink. Does Dean think like the other Bills fans? So we're not grading the picks. We're grading if Dean thinks like other Bills fans.
Got it. Yeah.
And that can be dangerous. Okay. So Bill, we're going to turn this over to you now. So can you launch the simulator and share your screen?
So that was going to ask you, from where do I launch the simulator? Where does it?
NFLDraftFanatics.com.
Oh, okay. Got it. I can do that.
So we will give Bill a second to connect in.
While he's doing that, one of the things that the Bills are going to have to guard against is groupthink, and groupthink might say, well, Bijan Robinson is there. He would be the best player for the Bills in this year. That groupthink is going to make either a lot of people really happy or really sad come draft day.
Probably a little bit of both.
So, Bill, once you're at the site, there's a present button at the bottom.
Okay, got it.
And you'll probably want to present the tab unless you have two monitors.
Okay.
And then you can share your whole screen. It's dangerous sharing your whole screen on a podcast because if you only have one monitor, it's like an echo effect.
Right. Let's see. Buffalo. Wait, hold on. Let's see.
So make sure you hit the present button so the people on the podcast can see your screen.
Right. I'm still trying to make sure I'm in the right. I'm finding the Buffalo Fanatics. I'm not seeing NFL Draft Fanatics. Hold on. Let me see something here.
I'll send it to you on Twitter.
Oh, okay. That is.
I know how to
easy
do
enough.
that.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Oh, here we go. Oh, there it is. Okay. Launching. Okay. And let's see. Single player, I'm assuming.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay. And we're doing, you said how many rounds?
5.
5. Okay.
Yep.
5.
And do you see a present button at the bottom of StreamYard?
Yep. I am going to that now. I just wanted to make sure I was in the right place first. And I'm going to share select. Yep. Not StreamYard. Hold on. I'm already in StreamYard. Select window or screen. Let's see.
So what we're hoping to see once Bill starts his mock is we will check. We forgot to check who Pittsburgh picked in the second round. Right? But we would go and we would check those picks by Pittsburgh and see if the picks I originally made were there.
Okay.
There's Bill. So, Bill, who is your team?
For the purposes of interesting fun, I'm going to go with the Eagles because the Eagles, I think, are going to have to do some funny, interesting things in this draft because of
yes, sir.
Yep, and they're at 10. There you go.
Yes, I know they're at 10. And you said I'm trying to remember what you said to select.
Sure.
First round BPA.
I would definitely turn on first round BPA. And then do me a favor and bump randomness up to 16.
16 for randomness. Got it. That should be interesting.
It's right.
It's the third slider down from the
third
top.
slider, right? I'm looking at depth, and then it's
random. Right first round BPA. Yep.
Yeah, that's right. I got it.
Take that all the way up to 16.
16 is
so what this is saying.
Oh, I get it. Okay.
16 teams in rounds 2 through 6 will not be selecting the top player.
Okay.
And then you're going to click. Yep. There you go.
Yep. And so I'm not. There's also. So I just click enter draft at this point. Yes.
Correct.
Okay, and I've entered.
And then it's going to ask you for a trade, and you can just say start draft.
Okay. So you just start draft. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was interested in, Howie Roseman's always going to listen to offers. Okay, so on my screen, I've got Miles Murphy, I've got Joey Porter Jr., I've got Nolan Smith, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jamar Gibbs, Jordan Addison, Jamie Robinson, Deontay Banks, and Bijan Robinson.
Yep. So a couple things. There are some position filters. If you're looking for specific players,
right,
we can fit 10 players on a screen, but the filters are a Boolean and. So meaning like if you wanted to look at like Philadelphia would be looking at defensive line and safety, definitely, right, and probably corner.
Yes, definitely. They're going to look at.
So
I'm assuming
you can take each position that you wanted to see.
Yeah, so
and it'll highlight only the players at those positions.
Got it. And I'm gonna throw a little bit of this in there, a little bit of that in there, maybe a little bit of that, a little bit of the other.
And then go ahead and scroll down a little bit. Yep. So each position has its own color.
Yep. Okay. And I can make a pick now?
Correct.
I'm going to. And I had a chance to watch Mr. Witherspoon in person. I am a huge fan. And
me too.
And say what you want about Lovie Smith, and people do. That guy knows how to coach defensive backs. Okay, so in this round,
now we're at the back of round 1.
Yep. Gibbs is still there. I like that.
Jamie Robinson.
Yep.
No, you don't want to go backfield, maybe.
Right. I'm very tempted by seeing, but I think Brown will be there next time I pick. Carter, Monty Smith. I love Zay Flowers. Not super necessary maybe to pick him, but I do like him a lot. I'm going to go with Jahmyr Gibbs.
Okay, so that the second one is an A+ because he was at the top of the card.
Right.
So can we scroll up now and look at who Pittsburgh and Buffalo picked?
Oh, so I'm now going to where it says.
You see where it says round 2?
Yeah.
Oh,
over on the left.
On the left.
It'll be the left.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Right.
So just
I have to scroll.
Scroll up there, and we're going to look to see who Pittsburgh picked in round 2. You see there's Jack Campbell right there.
Campbell.
And then Pittsburgh has a second pick in round 2.
Right.
And see if that was it DeJuan Jones that I picked?
We'll know it. Brandon Joseph, it looks like.
Okay. So in that case, we would ask ourselves one of two questions. Did the player that I had there, did he get picked earlier? Because he may have.
May have.
There was an offensive tackle.
But it looks like DeJuan Jones went right before I picked.
Yeah.
Okay.
At 61.
And it's also possible that those picks in round 2 were the random one, because we did bump up the randomness.
We did bump up the random. Apparently, it goes to 16. So,
because if you look, Buffalo's pick was definitely random. That was definitely not the top player on Buffalo's card.
right,
When Dean was picking, Avila was not at the top.
right.
Okay, so now you can go ahead and you can make your pick.
I will. And I am enormously enamored with Sidney Brown, so that makes it easy for me. I was a huge fan before I got a chance to talk to him a little bit. Got a chance to talk to him at the Combine, and I'm all in.
Now, what's making me happy is that the players that Bill likes were right at the top of Philadelphia's card, right? So the Eagles fans that have been using the simulator agree with Bill.
Which tells you, once again, how smart the people of Philadelphia really are. Shout out to Philadelphia, as we sometimes call it, the city of brotherly shove. And though I didn't grow up there, I actually was born there in Hahnemann Hospital. Let's see. So interesting. You're right. It is random. You weren't kidding about the randomness. Yeah, that's pretty random. I am not quite as excited about what I see here now, but let me see.
And my suggestion, so this happens. So the first impression of a lot of people when they use the simulator, it's exactly what Bill is experiencing now.
Yeah.
Use your filters and look for players.
That's what I'm about to do. Let's go back to defensive line. And I could still use a little pass rush because everybody can use pass rush. And right, the two dueling Byron Young. Ding, ding, ding. Yes, that's fun. And
they need an offensive tackle too.
Yeah, I was thinking tackles. Freeland, sort of, maybe. I'd like him around later. Let's see.
And running back too.
Yeah, what the heck?
They lose Miles Sanders.
Yeah, but I also picked Jahmyr Gibbs.
Oh, you okay? Thank you. I forgot about that.
No problem. Still not loving it, but I guess I'll take one of the Byron Youngs. Let's see.
Byron Young.
Well, so, and this is where I find that the randomness here the further we get into the draft cycle, the harder this is getting.
Right.
Because the players are moving up other teams' boards, and who you would expect to be, is this a 3rd round pick or a 4th round pick?
This is a 3rd round pick.
So if you go to other sites and you look at what offensive linemen are there in the 3rd round, in this simulator, the other fans have moved those offensive linemen up. There's almost no offensive linemen here.
Yes, I was noticing that. It's like, so Freeland's the best left, huh? Wowzers.
Was Tyler Steen available?
Well, let's see. If so, he's further down.
So you turn off some of the other positions and see if he's there.
Oh, okay, I could do that. I just clicked to the next.
Or you could do that too. But you could be scrolling for a while depending upon how far down the draft card he is.
Oh, you're right. You weren't kidding. Okay, so let me get rid of running backs. Let me get rid of that and edge and I'll turn on guards and tackles since there's some guys who are kind of a little bit of both. Like Jackson Kirkland, who was a tackle until the last part of his college career. Okay, helps slightly. I'm still not giddy. To be perfect. I guess Break Freeland it is. I'll hold my nose and welcome to Philadelphia, Blake Freeland.
So this is exactly the level of randomness and difficulty. Like when I was designing the simulator in my head, this is exactly the type of discussions that I don't always see happening. Like if it's a linear player board, you know who's going to be there 32 picks from now.
Right.
You do not know who's going to be there. So can you go to round 2 there for a second on the right-hand side? Bill, can you scroll up just a little bit? And go to round 2. See where it says round 2? Yeah. Yep. And let's scroll down and look at the Pittsburgh picks. Oh, so you look at Jack Campbell, and it was an A.
Yep. And then I got to go to this.
Yeah.
Washington, Simpson.
So I'm looking to see who the A pluses were. So Jack Campbell wasn't even the top player on Pittsburgh's board when he was picked.
Cody Mock.
Yeah. And then Brandon Joseph. Brandon Joseph was the top player on the card at the time of that pick.
Really? Interesting. Okay. Oh, how the mighty have fallen, Keely Ringo. Let's
see. And Avila was not the top because he was only an A. So the simulator is always programmed to give the simulated teams an A. And then depending upon the advanced settings, we'll determine if it's an A or an A+. The A+ is the top player on the card.
Got it.
And the player 2 through 8.
Got it.
Any questions or comments or?
Well, yeah, I mean, it really forces you to make decisions. And I was thrilled through the first, like I was cruising, like woohoo, and then all of a sudden, all the fun came screeching to a halt.
Yeah.
Okay.
They do all right if they had those 4 players in real life. That would make a pretty good draft for them.
Oh, it's not, and we all know Howie Roseman's not going to sit pat with what he has. He'll do some more things.
Yeah, he can. Yeah,
he is really active and fun. I'm writing a article soon about drafting personalities, like how each team has a draft personality, and I may try to do something cool with it. I don't know. Maybe I'll just write it straight, or maybe I'll think about like which character from The Hangover is most like one of the GM's drafting personalities. I don't know, but I really like studying how Howie Roseman attacks the draft.
Personality has had a lot to do with it. Brandon Beane and McDermott have chosen defensive tackle more than any other position, and that makes everybody say, well, let's look at the defensive tackles up front, and you might even be able to cover for the fact that you don't have a middle linebacker yet. So that might, Tremaine Edmonds is gone. Do you have to choose your Jack Campbell in this draft first? And we all know that defensive tackles can do a lot to mask the shortcomings further back in the defensive line or in the defense.
Right.
So that's part of the personality of Brandon Beane. Will he just go all out? And Sean McDermott, being the defensive coordinator, might have a more downhill style. So it'll be interesting to see now that he'll be calling the shots on defense.
Right. So I might consult with you when I get to the Bills. I'm doing in order of the draft, so the Bills will take a while to come up. But I may well consult with you, Dean, because I do want to pick your brain, because some teams I know very well. I know the Steelers very, very well, and they're dull as dishwater. I mean, you know what I mean? Like there's not a lot of, oh my God, I can't believe Steelers did. Yeah, we all believe the Steelers did what they did. Of course, they did exactly what they do. And then some teams are a little more random, I guess, to bring up what Jim has been making us work through. There are teams that do things that you don't see coming. And that's, of course, more interesting than the teams where it's like, oh, nailed it. But yeah, I definitely think that this tool that you've created is fascinating because it's almost like a social experiment as much as it is a mock draft.
Yes. So let's talk about a social experiment. Okay. So let's do the Kansas City Chiefs, and we are going to do this thing called a second round challenge. Okay. So these are here for a couple of reasons. One is that following Dean on Twitter, you see his pick sixes, right? Where he'll give you 6 guys each round for Buffalo.
Right.
So there was that. And then if anybody follows Otto, which is abandoned the punt, he would always tell me like how he would pull up multiple simulators and reverse engineer mock drafts, meaning that he would only pick a player if they were available in all 4 simulators at the same exact time.
Ooh.
So I'd listened to all this and I said, okay, I'm designing this into a simulator. So the second round challenge is 10 unique second round picks for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Huh.
So we're going to go through 10 straight 2-round drafts.
Got
Okay.
it.
So I flip on second round. It's already done that. And it's flipped whatever settings it needed to. Okay. So 10 consecutive 2-round drafts for Kansas City. And one of the reasons I like you take any team at the back 8 picks of the first round, they probably have 10 or 15 players on their board, even in round 1, that they're looking at. So, for example, for the Chiefs, they need edge, they need defensive line, wide receiver, and possibly corner. So basically, I can start pairing up like, okay, they could go Ica round 1. And then what
Who
was
also feels like a Brandon Bean guy when I
Yep. And then I think Tillman might be the only wide receiver there that I would consider in round 2. But notice who's above him. So I'm definitely – this is a way, like if you see this is also a way, if you see a punter taken in round 1, this is how you might manipulate and get players ranked ahead of the punter. Okay. So notice that Ica moved all the way up. He's second on the card. So I think Mozzie Smith is a great pick for Kansas City in round 1. Because they definitely need interior line. And then those are the offensive linemen that are there at the end of round 1. So notice like Bergeron's not there. I don't know where he went, but I don't see him.
Huh.
Yep. Oh, there he is.
Oh, okay.
What was that, Dean?
2 players before at 61.
61.
Bergeron.
Oh, yeah. Right there. Thank you. Okay, so Hunt maybe. Clark Phillips would be a good pick. Okay, and then definitely like the edge at the end of round 1. And notice Bergeron's there this time. And he's close to the top of the card already.
Yeah.
Deontay Banks would be a good pick for the Chiefs at the end of round 1.
Yeah.
Right, but that's why I say, like, if you pick a team at the end of the round, like if you're trying to play with some of this functionality, it's easy to me. It's easier to like think of who the Chiefs would be looking at the end of round one than you have some teams that are at the earlier part. You're like, they're only going to go edge or something to that effect.
Right.
So again, this is the last pick of round 2.
There's your Sidney Brown.
At the right, and again, some places would have him 3rd round, but he's probably not going to be there by the time the Chiefs pick in round 3.
Right.
Hyatt would be a great pick for the Chiefs in round 1.
Oh, sweet God in heaven.
Deep speed. Yep.
Oh. And he's going to the exact right situation because he's sort of a one-trick pony, but they only need a one-trick pony.
Yep.
And then I would go Malk at the end of round 2. So if you look, I've already done 6. This is, or excuse me, okay, that was 5, it said. So now keep in mind that, okay, yes. So I'm at the 6th. Gibbs to the Chiefs in round 1 is theoretically possible.
Right.
Maybe that receiver. Do you say his name Boot?
Boutte.
Yes, who had an absolutely disastrous pre-draft process, but yes, he still has talent.
Okay, so I'm going to look to see if Robinson is there at the end of round 2. I can see the Chiefs going Felix in round 1 to get edge. And then Robinson's not there.
I love Jordan Battle.
So we'll go Jordan Battle to the Chiefs. And all of this, if you think back to the first demonstration I gave about each time you pick a player, they move up the draft card.
Right.
I'm taking a player that was at 73. I'm moving him up the draft card a little bit, basically giving him a 2nd-round grade for the Chiefs. That doesn't mean he's a 2nd-round grade for everybody. He's a 2nd-round grade for the Chiefs.
Right.
Cam Smith.
Hundreds of people doing this, which makes it absolutely dynamic.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am going to go and grab Robinson for the Chiefs in round 1. They
Right.
need a safety.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think there's theoretically possible that both Philadelphia and Kansas City, which both need safeties, could be grabbing Robinson at the end of round 1. I think that's, even though his grade says round 2, if they need a safety, they know that he's not going to be there at the end of round 2.
Right. There might be some leapfrogging involved there.
Yep.
Which is one reason that Howie Roseman always likes to show up with a little extra something in his pocket. So if he needs to move, he can move. And then if he decides that there's not stuff he likes, he moves down and takes stuff into his pocket for next year.
Right. Last I looked, Philadelphia only had 6 picks, 4 of which are in the top 100.
I would wager a significant amount that's not what they'll have when the draft is over.
Yep. Yep. Kansas City has 10, but 3 are in the top 100. So they're probably looking for top 100s by combining picks.
Exactly.
So, and I find myself being challenged. Keanu Benton at the end of round 2.
I don't hate that. That's a guy I've warmed up to throughout the process. If you ask me about him in November, you're like, 4th, 5th round. And I've watched him more, and I watched him at the combine. I listened to him. I was there when he's being interviewed. And you can tell that you're getting sort of like not quite as versatile and not quite as big as Linval Joseph, but a guy I think will have a similar shape and length to his career as Linval Joseph.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So this, you get a screenshot of every round 1, round 2 pick. The key for a second round challenge is that the second round pick is unique.
Right.
Okay. The first round pick, like I picked Hyatt more than once. Like you can see, I picked Hyatt there and I picked Hyatt here. And then this player got picked, but those were the first round picks. So the first round picks, you can pick as many times as you want. Now, if you do a second round challenge, which is 10 unique second rounds, and you pick the same player in round 1 every time, that player is going to shoot right to the top of the card. Right. They should be close to the top of the card if you pick them once. So if you pick them twice, they're up at the top.
Right.
Okay. So the simulator has some things that nobody else has. Right. Nobody else has. Right. So a first round challenge is easier. So let's do a Bengals first round challenge. First round challenge is 5 unique first round.
Got it.
Okay, so this will go pretty fast. Like the second round challenge, I had to do a little bit of thinking. There's not going to be a lot of thinking here. The Bengals are going to want interior line or tight end. Like they may have some other stuff, but like based upon what I'm reading for the Bengals analysts, it's pretty much tight end or bust in round 1.
Right.
So let's go. Reezy would be one of the 5. That's a reasonable pick for Cincy. Darnell Washington.
Yep.
Mozzie Smith.
Yep.
I'm looking to see if Mayer drops. I'm guessing that Mayer has been picked before then. Yep. Nolan Smith to the Bengals. I like that. Branch.
It's a fun
Big
play.
Branch. And I guess they got one more.
Nolan Smith's got some like Bruce Irwin, but Bruce Irwin like a nitrous oxide bottle.
Yep.
There you go.
So that's 5 first round picks for Cincinnati. So I get a lot of messages on NFL Draft Fanatics about like how do you set up the player board? As soon as I get a player board, right, and it's been reloaded at least 3 or 4 times during the draft cycle. The first thing I do is I do a first round challenge on every team saying who are the 5 likely picks. I get those players to the top of the card. Then you go and you do a second round challenge. So you're getting certain players kind of seeded.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, the randomness takes over. The fans can take over from there. The feedback I was originally given when people were using the simulator was, I can't find my players, or the players were too far from the top of the list. Right. So you do a first round challenge or a second round challenge, and you can set it up quickly. And if you have a lot of people doing a lot of challenges, 1 or 2 of their players are going to overlap. The other 3 will be unique. It's the 2 players that overlap that will be continually at the top of the card.
Got it.
Okay. Right.
And that's the idea.
But if you think of dozens and dozens of fans doing that, there's a balance. There's a checks and balances there, and groupthink can be a good thing.
Yep. Yes. Okay. You guys want to do another mock, or do you guys want to call it a day? How are you guys feeling?
I'd like to do some.
Go for it.
More with a mock where we both are contributing to one team's pick.
Now that's a man after my own heart, right there.
Yeah. Well, some discussion about the player and right. What might be good. I don't even care if it's the Bills, but it can be anybody.
Okay. Well, Dean, do you want to drive, Dean, or do you want me to?
Why don't you do that, and I'll be looking up on my spreadsheets here.
Right.
Okay.
And I can engage in gas baggery, which is my favorite thing.
Gas baggery is
Let's
good.
do Houston because they have a lot of draft capital.
Yes, sir.
Actually, no. I was actually thinking, is it Seattle that has 2 picks in every round?
They have 2 picks in multiple rounds. I don't know about every round, but they do have a
Okay,
lot.
so let's do a 3-round draft for Seattle.
Okay.
Oh wow.
And they have a really quirky draft personality. John Schneider, he's not intentionally doing it. Like some people, I think, try to be the smartest guy in the room. I don't think he's doing that. I think he just sees players differently. You know what I mean? Like I think he just doesn't see players the way other people see them.
I'm probably the only person that listens to interviews of every player just to get a flavor of that. I can tell you some players that are going to drop based on their interviews. It's because the interviews have probably already taken place at the combine or at pro days or whatever.
Yep.
They're going to drop, and others are going to probably rise to the top.
So if you are Seattle, there's a quarterback there that fell to 5th.
Huh. Interesting.
So do you go Jalen Carter? So if you notice, Jalen Carter is not the top player on Seattle's board here. But I'll let you two debate.
Yeah,
I mean, I can't imagine there'd be a need for debate if Jalen Carter is somehow there.
If you put a gun to my head, I would probably go with Carter, but there's some questions that I had about personality and about that type of thing, even before he had this little altercation.
Right.
His interview wasn't as good as Tyree Wilson.
Oh, I agree. Wilson's the guy I've been mocking to Seattle for quite some time. I think they'd have to have a talk if somehow Carter was there. I think they like Wilson. I think Wilson fits what they do. He gives them position versatility. He's a guy that is big enough and strong enough that you can throw him on the interior, some 4-eye stuff, some 2-eye stuff, some 3 stuff. He can play 5. He can go out to the 6, and he can do a little bit of everything.
Right.
And then Jalen Carter.
I flash back to Marcel Darius or J.J. Watt.
Huh.
And the Marcel Darius, the good part of Marcel Darius, and not the lazy slug part.
Well,
Right.
So ultimately, my opinion is when they were coming out, Darius was the consensus higher player. Like, I don't remember where Watt went, but Watt was somewhere between 7 and 10.
11 overalls where Watt went.
Right.
And I remember it so clearly because I wrote a furious defense of J.J. Watt. People forget, like, they got savaged for taking him at 11. It's too high. You could have got him 10 picks later, blah, blah, blah. And I'm a metrics guy. I like to look at numbers. They were looking at all the wrong numbers, right? If you just look for like sack and tackle for loss numbers, you're going to miss a lot. You're going to miss constantly. But what he had at an elite level at his position was solo tackle market share. This guy hit people before other people got there more than people at his position did, more than 98.7% of people at his position since 1979. Yep. So,
wow.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Elite.
Where I was going also was positional importance. Carter might have the better tape, but the positional importance edge is greater than interior, right? And you're like, if you're Seattle and you're in this situation, this draft is really deep with interior defensive line, but you're not going to get a premier edge even 5 picks later.
Depending on how you see the position. And this is where the John Schneider stuff sort of figures in. The Seattle Seahawks believe in certain things in the evaluation process that other people literally scoff at. I mean, literally scoff. Like, they don't even pretend to like what Seattle does in the way they evaluate players. I mean, I've had people off the record, but say that they think it's a clown show, right? I've heard people say that off the record, obviously. But some of what they're doing is clearly working. I believe that they. I know that they like Tariq. I know that they like some other guys more than other people do too, including people that most people see as 5th and 6th rounders. Sort of like the random thing here, they've got 2nd and 3rd round grades. A lot of people that other people have 5th and 6th round grades on. They're very different from the quote unquote consensus. That's one of the cool things about Seattle.
That's cool.
Okay, so I vote Wilson. Dean, what's your vote?
I'd vote for Tyree Wilson just because the length and strength that he brings to edge is bar none. I'd be totally comfortable with taking Carter as well.
I'd be totally comfortable taking either one. And my personal preference is actually Smith as well. I think Tyree is a rare package of things. There's a little more development work to be done than with Carter, who is, sort of, I won't say fully formed, but, you can tell he's been coached up. I'll put it that way. There's definitely some. I'm fine with Smith because I just think he's going to be terrific, especially in the way he'll be used in Seattle.
All right.
Okay. So Porter went to Pittsburgh at 17, and Seattle at this point would need receiver. They did a reasonable job last year rebuilding their offensive line, so I'm thinking receiver, corner, quarterback, maybe. No.
Where is Hooker still on the board?
He is.
I mean, they at least have a discussion about Hooker.
Jordan Addison.
He's a lot like Geno Smith.
With Jordan Addison, you probably have the 2nd best deep threat in the class, unless it's Jaden Reed. So
okay, yeah,
that might be a good consideration as well.
Right.
And he is the top player on their board, right? You can see PPA,
and he's
the top player on the board.
And he's ready to play. I mean, he's ready to play at the NFL level right out of the box. He's been extremely well coached.
Yeah.
Brendan Marion, who was his coach while his time was at Pitt, is one of the best position coaches. I mean, he and Hartline are right there in terms of pure ability to coach wide receivers.
Yeah.
Okay. So we will go Addison there.
Okay.
And then Seattle, I believe, is 2 picks in round 2. Okay. So we saw, in this case, Buffalo went edge. And Philadelphia did Gibbs. And Philly did corner. And Witherspoon was the corner that you grabbed, right, Bill?
Yeah, Witherspoon, Devin Witherspoon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So notice that the picks that you made earlier are the ones that are at the top of the board here.
Right.
That's the way it's designed to work.
Right. Awesome.
Okay, so I'm thinking here they would do, this is Seattle's, their interior line.
Yep.
They do need linebacker.
Yep.
But it's not clear to me what kind of linebacker, but they need linebacker, right? They did re-sign Wagner.
Yep.
But they need a better solution beyond the season.
Right. Is Deion Henley on the board still?
I believe so, yes.
I think he'd be discussed.
Would you do him in round 2 or round 3?
Well, they probably think he'll be there in round 3, and they might be right. But they're probably right him being available in 3. Amongst interior offensive line, who's still available?
So offensive line, most of the second round guys are there because we're at pick 37, so they have no pick.
Mock is every position on that line.
Mock is every position, and he's become essentially a folk hero. So, he and you talked about guys who helped themselves in the interview room. I mean, you talked about Keishon Butte, who's basically hung himself out to dry in the interview room. Cody Mock has done the exact opposite. Every team that's talked to him has fallen in love with him.
Yep.
Okay. So the only players higher than Mock were Felix, but they've already taken edge. Sewell, and then Mozzie Smith. So the card was almost set up the way that you guys described.
Yeah. A Sewell would have to be a discussion as well. Because with what I've gleaned, I think they'd like him too. I think they'd like a lot of things about him. Huh. That's a very good set of discussions they'd have to have about this pick.
I liked Sewell's interview a lot, and I know that I'm hoping that he goes to a team on the West Coast because his hometown is America, Samoa.
Samoa, right?
So that there's that, and then the fact that he has a little bit of flex inside, outside, but also, he can play a 4-2-5, he can play a 4-3, and with his speed, he could probably do any of those. That'd be a good consideration. The interview both Mock and Sewell, great interviews.
Both great interviews, right?
Okay. You want to go Sewell?
I'm leaning Mock only because there's not another player quite like him available afterwards.
That's a good point.
I think you can get somebody who is at least 85 to 90% of Noah Sewell in another round.
And he's the poster child for run blocking. So
right.
I agree.
Okay. So just to give an idea of the algorithm. So when you pick a player, it's who's ever higher gets a fraction of a down vote. So if somebody gets enough fractions, they move down.
Got it.
Like we don't know if they're moving down a full ranking or not.
I understand what you're saying, yeah.
So just had the chance to clue that in. So Mozzie Smith is still dropped.
Okay, Mozzie is and can you explain rank 9 when it says rank 9? What do the people need to know about that?
So the rank is where he is on the team big board.
Okay.
BPA is the rank at the current pick.
Got it.
Meaning that he's the best player at the current pick. So the BPA is how the grading is done.
Got it.
Whereas this is where he is on the team board. Because I have seen mocks for Seattle where Mozzie goes in round 1.
Yep.
Like pick 20.
Yeah, which is a little rich for my blood, but, things happen every year that I go, oh okay. So that'd be one of those, okay moments for me. But, yeah, it's not impossible.
And that's, to me, this is the appeal of the design of this simulator, is I want that type of randomness to exist.
Right.
Where it's not a linear player board where these 32 players are going in round 1 and these next 32 are going in round 2.
Right. No matter how much you do it.
I didn't expect him to go that early. And now everybody's reacting to it because you expected 5 defensive linemen to be there in round 2, and now there's only 2. Right. I want events like that so that when Bill gets to that round 3 for Philadelphia, he's like, I don't like this board. I don't like it at all.
I was so happy previously, too. I was really feeling like this is fantastic. And then,
So, Dean, if you were to compare and contrast those top 3 defensive line.
Right. So I know that Devon Dexter has already had a meeting with the Bills. They drafted 59, so that's about right. That Mozzie Smith, I think, also got a private audience. Yeah. So a scout went to his pro day. Bean has been to 2 of his games. 4 scouts have been to Michigan games. Fisher, the scout, has been there. Brian Fisher. So yeah, I think that. Oh, and Malik Boyd has also been. There's a Michigan player is going to the Bills, so let's not take him. Let him drop no. I think those are the top 2
Okay.
that are going to go.
Are they Isn't Dexter's like 3'5", right? He's either a 3 tech or a 5 tech. He's not a nose, is he?
So of all of those, I would put Mozzie. I would put him as a 1 tech plugger. In other words, he's going to hold the line just like Sutterluety used to.
Yes.
He's really strong, and if anybody wants to watch him jump up a set of stairs that are plyometric stairs, you've got to see that to believe him.
Oh yeah,
I saw that on Twitter. That was an incredible clip.
Yes. 34 reps on the bench.
Yeah,
he's the freak, and then Javon would be the 303. He's going to be playing 3 tech, maybe 5 tech, maybe edge. Their team is a 3-3-5, so that's a little bit of sizzle. But the elite tech testing numbers, and he has kind of a low number of pressures per game. So he's going to hold the fort, but he isn't going to. He's not going to get the sacks and the tackles for loss.
So, Bill, where do you have those 2 defensive tackles? Like, are they in the correct order here?
I like Mozzie a little bit better for 2 reasons. As was just mentioned, he was on Feldman's freak list. He can do things that humans normally cannot do. and you're getting a good football player in Dexter, but he just doesn't have all that in his bag. He can't do it. And I think in the right system, you could get a little more than just run plugging out of Mozzie Smith. A guy who's that athletic, you could, if you coached him differently, I think he could do other things. But even if you don't do anything with him and just say, hey, gum up the works in this gap right here, he can do that literally day one when he shows up at rookie camp and do it at a very high level.
I agree. Just be a problem. Go.
Okay, so now we are at Seattle, and this is their last remaining pick because we're doing a 3-round. So if I had, at this point, we've already done Jordan Addison. We don't need to do wide receiver again. So edge, wide receiver, tackle, defensive line. Seattle would need a linebacker or a cornerback and possibly a safety.
Okay, so let's sort for those 3 positions and see who is. Okay, so somebody snagged Henley. Okay, so we got Brent
Brown.
Ooh.
Both the top 2 there are
me likey. Oh my. I am a fan of both. So now you have to ask yourself, positional depth-wise, which one is there less of a drop-off?
Didn't Woolen go to Seattle last year?
Oh, now you go there, but I just think I can't believe they got him in the 5th round. Oh my. My mind melted when he just kept going further and further down the board, and then he goes to Seattle. It's like, oh, of course.
So Julius Brents is 44 on my board, and I think he'll be great in a man situation, and he 6'3", 202. What's not to like? He can be your man CB, or he could be a free safety. He's also from that 3-3-5 that we're seeing a little bit more in college. He got a 41.5 on the vert.
Yep.
He killed every event but the 40, and I think that's why he's available here and now.
Yeah. That is why. If you're willing, because his whole thing is press. And he will occasionally get beat, so you have to give him some help over the top. If you're willing to be okay with that and say, hey, against certain players, we got to make sure we got somebody with eyes on over the top, you're going to be okay with him. He's going to occasionally get beat. When you're that tall, your change of direction and you have a higher center of gravity. It's just physics. A really small, quick guy is going to get past you sometimes. Mm-hmm. But I think everything else about him I love. he's a good tackler. He has good instincts. He's got good ball skills. He's got a little bit of everything except amazing deep speed.
You'd take Sidney Brown, right?
I really like Sidney. I like Sidney Brown more than I should. I'm going to admit that right off, that I am not at all objective. I cannot really think clearly around Sidney Brown. I fell in love with him last year, and then he got better. So I should remove myself. I have to recuse myself regarding Sidney Brown because I cannot render cogent analysis because my emotions are too much involved. I just think he's terrific.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, guys, I appreciate this. So this simulator works best if fans of 32 teams uses it. Right? Because it's all about group think, right? And that's where the randomness comes in. So.
Well, what I'm going to do, I'm writing a story about draft personalities anyway. I feel like this dovetails directly into what I'm doing. So if you don't mind, I will toss the link and I'll send both you gentlemen. I know I have an email address for you, Jim. Dean, if you'd be so kind as to share an email address, I'm going to send you some questions about, well, you both are Buffalo guys, right?
Yes.
Right.
Obviously. So Buffalo, I mean, I'm old too. So I remember Buffalo having a very distinct draft personality at one point many years ago, and then it's shifting, right? Changing very significantly in direction. And when I look at the team now, I mean, there's certain things that really stand out to you. They really care about football character. I mean, everybody says they do, but they really care about football.
Yeah.
Character. I mean, they like to the point where they'll sacrifice in other areas even, right? As you've seen, where they'll be like, okay, this guy might be better at this, and this, but this guy's a guy who will, drag himself out there, even though he probably shouldn't, and try to play. They like that, right? They really like that football character thing. And I mean, I watched McDermott in college, not so much to watch him, but because Darren Sharper was there. But I grew up in Virginia. My mother went to William and Mary for law school, so I used to go to a couple of William and Mary games every year anyway. And so I got to see both Tomlin and McDermott in college, but I was once again not there for them. I was there for Darren Sharper, who was an unstoppable killing machine at William and Mary. It's like, how is this guy at William and Mary? Like, I mean, his. I mean, obviously, other stuff happened with Darren Sharper, but we're talking about a guy that could have done anything that you could want a player to do in the secondary. He could have played corner, could have played strong safety, free safety, slot, anything. Fast, strong, smart, just whatever. What a waste. But watching him at William and Mary was, I mean, I was like, are the people seeing what I'm seeing? And I had developed a friendship with a Colts scout, and he was like, yeah, shut the hell up. Like, don't tell anybody. Whatever. Like, so at least some team, and obviously, he ends up where he ends up. But I mean, I'm in love with this. This is a fascinating thing you've created, and yeah, I definitely will talk about it in the article I'm writing. So look for emails from me, and then I'll be talking to both of you. So one of you as a participant, and one a possible participant. I don't know if your life has changed significantly since the last time we spoke, Jim. And then one of you as a possible judge on
even if I'm the voice on Draftapalooza, the board was Dean. The board was Dean and Otto.
Oh, okay.
So there's another gentleman that's Bill's Mafia. His name is Otto, and he's all about abandon the punt. We don't need a punter. Just save the roster spot. So Otto did a lot of research. I used his board with a little bit of help from Dean. So I think I had the player list from Dean and the rankings from Otto. I think is pretty much the way that worked. And ultimately, Deshaun Corbin, who was running back one on the board, wasn't even drafted.
Well, we were all – that was the one that caught everybody off guard, like, Deshaun Corbin. I remember everyone's reaction to that one, like, Deshaun Corbin. And I mean, there was stuff about Deshaun that I'd heard that, scared me a little bit. But he did run hard as heck. He's a guy, he's got like a certain amount of toughness, but he had some never quite fully recovered injury stuff. I think that really hurt him. And yeah, there was just some, other stuff about him. He's an interesting young man, and I hope he finds,
he's on the Giants practice squad.
Right. And I hope he finds an NFL home. I mean, maybe that's it.
So my favorite running back this year, and I'm always curious where he lands, is Deneric Prince.
Tulsa. Okay. I'm more of a Deneric Prince guy than I was a Deshaun Corbin guy, at least in part because one, Prince has been pretty much injury-free from high school through college, which is always exciting. I like to look also at high school. I mean, obviously college matters, but if a guy's been really beat up all through high school and then somehow magically he doesn't get hurt in college, that still scares me a little bit. Yeah. But when I see a guy manage to be pretty much untouched through high school and college, it either means he's been stupidly lucky or he understands how to play a collision position like running back and not take kill shots.
And Prince's first 2 years, didn't play for Texas A&M almost at all.
Right. Well, that's because
a little bit last year, and then he switched to Tulsa.
Right.
But I remember, there was some Friday afternoon. It was in October, and I'm watching a game Friday night, and it was Tulsa. I think it was Tulsa TCU, and I'm like, okay, Otto, do you have Deneric Prince on your list? Dean, do you have Deneric Prince on your list? And he wasn't on either of their boards in October. Okay. And then I'm just fascinated where he ends up now.
Yeah,
how high is he going to go? Because I truly think a running back that is that big and that fast, he doesn't have the production or the fanfare of the players higher on the board.
Yeah.
His measurables, he was one of the fastest running backs at the combine.
Yeah, and he's just beginning, because of what you just said, he's just beginning to really develop as a running back. Yeah. So if you're
taking a chance.
Right. If you're the Eagles and you didn't go running back early and you say, later in the draft, roll the dice. And that would be a perfect situation for him because he's not going to be asked to exactly carry the team. The Eagles have got some things they can work with on offense. And he gets a chance to become the guy eventually. He doesn't have to be the guy right out of the box. I could see that being a really good spot for him. The things I like about Prince, he doesn't have the world's best vision or instincts yet, but a lot of people act like that's something you can't develop. And I've seen it happen. I've seen guys improve in those areas. And a lot of it is drill work. A lot of it is just playing more. People seem to understand that offensive linemen get better, right? People understand that quarterbacks get better, wide receivers get better. For some reason, people don't realize that running backs get better too. People seem to think that a running back is fully formed at age 20. And I've seen enough football to realize there's guys who at 20 who had no idea what they were doing, who by 24 were all worlders. So, I watched, once again, it helps to be old. I watched Terrell Davis before he got to Georgia. I watched him at Long Beach State University, where he's being coached by George Allen, right? In his last stop as a coach. And then they lost the program. The program shut down. But you could see this guy, you could see that there was something there. But the guy who had the amazing vision and the amazing ability to see, cut back, none of that was there yet. None of that was there yet. Even at Georgia, none of that was there yet. Once again, situation is so much of everything. Alex Gibbs and Shanahan and everything they did fit his strengths, but it took him a while to get it because it goes against so many of your natural instincts, right? To run in that system. No, not yet. No, you think, no, not yet. I know you think, no, not yet. Now, right? You have to really fight yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's it. No, that's really, no, not, okay, right? Because people are coming to get you and there's adrenaline flowing through your body. Everything within you say, go, 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 go. And you have to say, nope, now.
And going back to what you were saying about instincts and setting up blocks are related.
I was going to talk about that. Yeah, that was my main beef about Prince is that he isn't a blocker, and that's going to be something. He's going to have to ride behind for a while. And if you have like three really good running backs in front of him, like the Bills do. That would be a good place for him where he would later on flourish. I like Peoples also for the same reason.
Cameron Peoples, yes.
The Appalachian State guy, Cameron
Peoples, yeah.
I think that he'll do quite well, and I like his blocking a whole lot more than I like Prince's. So
yeah, well, he's more developed all the way around as a running back.
Yeah.
Like he has a better sense of how to do the job.
Yeah.
Prince just has more upside because, once again, he's got freakish potential. He doesn't know what he's doing half the time. He'll make exactly the wrong decision sometimes as a running back, and then he'll just run his way back into the right decision. You know what I mean? Like he's got enough talent that's like, no. And then he'll say, oh, okay.
I saw that in the TCU game.
Right, exactly.
Like, he had like 250 yards that game, and the entire season before he only had 400 yards total. And then the one game I watch him play, he has 250. And I just like, okay, who is he? It's like I could tell, like you said, some plays he looked a little lost. But then there were plays there he looked lost, and then he ran at 40 yards. And nobody could catch it.
Right. So
nobody on TCU came even close to catching.
Right.
Same with the Temple game. The Temple game, he had like an 87-yard scamper.
Okay, maybe I had the wrong team. Maybe it was.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it was Tulsa Temple.
But he has, and that's the thing is he'll sometimes he will be so wrong that the defense can't believe he did it. Right, that he did that, and because your run fits should be taking you to where he's headed, and then he doesn't go to where the play is supposed to go. So occasionally it ends up working in his favor, but you can't continue to do it. Temple will not be on the schedule at the next level, so he won't be able to count on some of these things at the next level. These guys are going to take the right run fit, and his blockers are going to, pretty much insist that you run the play, and his coaching more importantly will pretty much insist that you run the play as we designed it. But yeah, he's got a lot of potential. I'm a big Sean Tucker guy, and there's a lot of sort of mixed feelings about Sean Tucker. I just think he's better than most people think. I think he's really concerned about the fine details. He works really hard. He's a smart guy. He has a huge notebook of all his plays, good, bad, and indifferent. He grades himself very hard. Right. And I just think he's going to be better than people think.
Yeah, I think he's better right now than Singletary was coming out of college.
Agreed.
I love doing this. We should do it again. Love the idea of doing something with Draftapalooza, and we'll Jim will give.
I do have another one of these tomorrow night. It's one of the people I met at Draftapalooza. Brunelli is doing this with me tomorrow night.
Okay.
And Dean, I think Fridays usually for you are out, right?
Yeah.
I'm doing David Cremelo's show tomorrow night, but I might be able to make Saturday work if you let me know far enough ahead.
I could do this again next Saturday. If you guys have a third person that wants to draft for a different team, I love it when 2 or 3 people can just go back and forth. It makes it much easier for me to facilitate.
I have a friend who would definitely want to draft for the Chargers. So yeah, I've got some people who I could.
Is that Brock?
Oh, well, him too. Right, Brock.
So Brock was my first guess when I did this. It was Brock.
Oh, Brock's a Raiders guy. I was thinking about. They call him the Hater, but his name's Chris.
Got it. Okay, hey, we can definitely bring on the Hater. Yep. So yeah, realistically, Bill, if we wanted to bring on 10 people, right, we could have 10 people and do this. And on a Saturday night, like next week, I could definitely make that happen.
So yeah, shoot me all the information. I'm in like a million different draft related group chats. So to the point that they sort of in my mind, but I will try to remember which ones are which, and but I will get it out to a couple of them, and I'm sure you'll get a pretty strong response based on that.
Oh, that would be awesome.
So, Jim, where do fans go to use your simulator now?
NFLDraftFanatics.com.
I think they'll need to know that, and
yep,
we'll be seeing you all on Twitter. Bill's at 11Bravo138, and I'm at TC Bills _Astro.
Yes. Yes.
And you can find me at NFL Draft Fanatic. No I.
Oh,
Ran
that
out of characters. I ran out of characters.
okay. That's okay. Got it. Okay.
You
But
know,
yeah,
there's no I in Draft Fanatic.
right. Exactly. That's a beautiful sentiment. Also, I'll be
Okay.
shooting both.
Dean,
of
I'm
you.
stealing that. That was really good. There's
I'll
no
be
I in
shooting-
Draft Fanatic.
I like it. I'll be shooting both of you guys emails. And yes, I'll be hoping that each of you will contribute in some way, shape, form, or fashion to the Mock Draft Palooza. And Dean, I am very much interested in just talking to you in general about this stuff,
Right.
because I think you're one of the better people doing this.
We'll connect.
Okay.
And-
Hey,
and next-
everybody,
next
thank
time-
you for the likes. Thank you for watching. Thank you for following. I have had a great time on this Thursday night. Mock Draft Live with NFLDraftFanatics.com.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A pleasure.